Hello and welcome to the Greg Fearon podcast with your host Greg Fearon. And today I have the awesome Gia Lili, who is the high performance life coach. Gia, how are you?
Hi, Greg. I'm very well, thank you. And oh my goodness, thank you for having me.
No, that's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We've been trying to sort this out for a while, so
We're
yeah,
here now.
we made it. We made it. So do you want to just intro yourself to the listeners and just tell people what you do and how you do it?
Sure. So, as you've said, and I love the fact that you pronounced my name correctly. It is Gia Lili, and I am a life coach, essentially to high achieving and high performing individuals who may be professionals, and even in corporate spaces. I have also worked with the solopreneurs too, so I've got quite a wide range of people that I've worked with in different settings. So it's exciting. It's been fast paced, but I essentially really look at the different life challenges which my clients have been going through or trying to negotiate while trying to be, this amazing high performer in the workplace as well. And as we know, work life balance, whatever you want to call it, it's hard. Right,
Hmm,
it's hard, and so I'm here to help with the recalibration of that. So that's what I do essentially.
awesome. Does work-life balance even exist? Like, do you ever get it to balance up?
Disclaimer, right? and truth bomb right here. No, it doesn't.
That's what I
It
thought.
doesn't. Yeah, it really doesn't. And that's where half the struggle is, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Um,
What people looking for this mythical life work balance that just doesn't actually exist.
no, because life is going to throw different things at you, and that certain things are going to become different priorities at different times. It's about how to navigate through that. I mean, I talk about that in my book as well, especially like if you've been working from home as well.
Mhm.
That's another layer of challenges right there, right? And part of that obviously is like how we take care of ourselves or don't take care of ourselves, which is part of what we're talking about here today, aren't we?
Yeah, because I imagine a lot of your clients are, like you say, they're high performing people. They want
Mhm.
to be the best at what they do, but they'll often neglect their health, and that has repercussions to everything else, right?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. It's like, oh, I've got to meet these goals, these KPIs need to be met. I've got to hit this and I've got to do that. And it's all for the company. Like, you want to be the best, you want to get that promotion or whatever the case might be. But unfortunately, it starts to happen at the cost of your own health and well-being and even your relationships. So
Oh,
yeah, really
tell me,
got to address that.
tell me more. Tell me more about the relationships bit. Like that's a deep topic.
It really is. And do you really want me to put my former relationship coach's hat on for this
Yeah,
one?
listen, bring your A game. Let's go. Yeah, talk to me about that. Let's
Well,
go.
this is what it right. This is what we do, right? Bring our A game. Uh, but yeah, absolutely. When we're not taking care of our health, it does affect our relationships, right?
Hmm. In what way though? What way have you seen it happen to people that you worked with?
Oh my goodness. So, like, let's say high performer on overdrive. And listen, I'm talking about this from a space of having been there myself. So, the one thing I really um, try to be very mindful of when I'm working with my clients is not to come across as being judgmental or anything like that. I've been there, I've worked through it, and it's been hard. So, I totally get it. And sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, right?
Mhm.
And when we're in our place of being hyper focused and saying, yeah, I've got to do this, I've got this presentation, I've got all these work pressures on me. And what can happen in the process is that you can end up unwittingly pushing your loved ones away. And now suddenly they feel like they are coming last.
Mm,
And now you're wondering why your spouse is getting upset with you, why things might not be going great in the bedroom or nothing happening in the bedroom, right?
mm.
Or your kids feeling neglected because like you're so tired and stressed out, you're not fun to be around.
Yep,
So, those are the kinds of repercussions we're looking at.
I love it. So, what's the biggest challenge that your clients come to you with? What do you see as being the big? thing that they just really all struggle with?
The common denominator in everything is like, oh my gosh, like I'm spent. I'm giving everything I possibly can to my kids, my spouse, or my boyfriend, or whatever the case might be. Like every area, my ladies are stretched. And they're trying to be Wonder Woman as much as she possibly can, because like society has this weird idea that she should be able to do all these things.
I've got a
Right?
question. Because I have this. Obviously, I coach ladies,
Yeah,
and I often ask them, "Who says you have to be Wonder Woman?
right.
Are you the same?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But even I had to ask myself that question. It's like, Gia, why do you feel like you have to do everything?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had words with myself too. I totally get it.
And how do you help these ladies get past that? Because
Mm.
that Wonder Woman identity is so stuck onto a lot of ladies.
And it seems to be more prevalent now more than ever,
Okay.
especially with our ladies in management,
Mm.
right? And I've seen this firsthand. I have sisters who are senior management in the retail industry.
Mm-hmm.
I so sometimes like I see this mentality creep in the house.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I mean, now, okay, I don't really want to be talking about the whole feminism thing, but let's be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what can happen is because some of the women that I've worked with, I've been so gung-ho about being the best in everything they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're stepping more into their masculine energy. And what that can do is, unfortunately, that can essentially disarm the man in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I here for then? Not myself, I mean like the man in their life. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, where's my place?
Mm. I guess being a man, I can see that happening. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, because we see the labels of the strong independent woman and all that stuff, and which is awesome. It should happen, but sometimes, like you said,
Yes.
it goes a step too far, and you're like, but then these ladies wonder why they're stuck
Yeah.
doing everything and then getting nothing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's like with everything, there are extremes, aren't there? So that's just something to be very careful of when
Mm-hmm.
we're trying so hard. We could actually end up doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
No, sometimes as women, we can essentially be enabling. So it's okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. Sometimes it's easier, and sometimes because we're just tired of nagging to try and get it done.
Oh, okay.
Let's be
Shots fired.
honest.
Shots fired. All right.
Listen,
No. It's cool. It's all right. It's fun. No, this is a good conversation because I think there's a different switch between men and women. Like men, I'll speak for the men. We'll
Mhm.
come in. We'll sit down. That's it. The work day is over.
Yes,
We're not thinking about the dishes and all that stuff. It's just not. As far as we're concerned, we're like the day's done. Work's over.
yeah.
But I guess for a lot of women, they take on this. I have to own my household and everything needs to be perfect and all that stuff.
There can be an element of that, most definitely. And as you've pointed out, it is easier for men to have, and I hate generalizing like
No,
that,
no,
but
no.
what I've noticed, so from what I have noticed,
Yeah.
just like from relationship dynamics that I've been in, clients are in, have been in, what have you, right? It does seem to be that men have a much clearer demarcation line between, okay, so that's work and this is home. Work is where I just crush it. Home is where I come to relax,
Hmm.
right? Not so much of a demarcation like that, a stark a line like that now where people are hybrid or home working,
Yes, for sure.
essentially. However, oh, I'm sorry about this. There we go.
It's
See,
all right.
all the gazillion alarms that go off for us ladies because like we've got to do this and we've got to have, you know. right?
Mm.
So real life example right there. I have two different alarms telling me two different things about two different, commitments or what have you. But I forgot to turn them off because we are here right now discussing, the sort of the health and relationships angle, and how that affects our household, right?
Mm.
And so we were saying, yes, there seems to be a clearer demarcation line for men in terms of, yeah, well, I can switch off now, I'm at home. Or there seems to be an easier cutoff point. We say, right, I'm going to stop working now. Now I'm going to enjoy my home for family time or whatever, or like go out for a beer or watch the football or whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
But for the ladies, like especially like you've got children in the house, it's easier for dad to go get his free time, but not so easy for mum because with children, the first person they'll run to is mum. And
Oh.
so there's motherhood duties, right?
Mhm.
So you never switch off from that. So once you're at work, you're working. Once you're at home, you're mothering. It's like women don't actually stop until their head hits the pillow at night.
Mm.
That's when they stop.
And even then, sometimes it's just going around in your heads, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mm. Okay, got it. So these high performers that you work with, I'm
Mhm.
sure they're awesome people.
They are. They're amazing. I love them. I love my clients.
And if they work with you, they got to be a little bit awesome, right?
Oh, thank you, Greg.
I wouldn't have you here. But I guess the question is then how do
Mhm.
we get these high performers to perform better? Because I guess they've come to you feeling like they're burnt out, they can't achieve more. So how do you help them
Yeah.
get that extra 10%, 20%, whatever it is they're looking for? How do you do that?
It might sound really simple. Actually, it might sound really hard. It depends on how you view it. And, one of the things we do actually within the coaching is the mindset element.
Mm-hmm.
But one way of doing that is really checking in with your boundary system. Do you even have one in place?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's important. You've got to have boundaries for what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to, and how long you're doing things for as well.
Got it.
That's
Because
one way.
are these people guilty of, or these ladies guilty of just doing too much?
Yes, out of obligation, most of the time,
Mhm.
you
And
know.
is there also a thing about not being really clear about what they want? Because that's something I see a lot. Like I
Mm,
want to lose weight, and I have to dig and actually understand what's the root cause.
yeah.
Like, what are you really trying to do? I want to run a marathon. Well, why do you want to run a marathon? What?
Mm,
I just want to run it. Well,
mm,
what will that give you? And you have to really drill. So you must
mm.
that a lot too, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. And one thing that I've noticed, like with the ladies who come to me, is more around self-image, actually.
Okay.
So there is part of the people pleasing aspect to this too.
Hmm.
I mean, not so much with the kids because yeah, you can put in some discipline, and yeah, and no, they're not going to every single school trip, going, because that costs money, time, your child in somebody else's care, or all sorts of things that are going through your mind with that one. But what I mean is like, so that one might be easier to say no to things like that too. But when it comes to um, saying yes to yourself. This is the most important part of it. It's actually saying yes to the things that you want. And that includes taking care of your health and well-being too, Greg. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's a big one.
Well, it's a massive part. I mean, for me, I spend most of my time not dealing with nutrition or training. It's more about helping the ladies I work with to put themselves as as important as they can.
Yeah.
So what have you got any special advice or tips that people can use to say, I heard this podcast with Gia, she was awesome, and I learned this thing from her to help me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, drop me some knowledge bombs.
But we're still knowledge bombs. Okay. So going back to the whole theme about taking care of you and bringing yourself back into the picture as a priority. The first part is actually seeing yourself as a priority as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not putting yourself last anymore. Because you know what it's like when you're juggling so many balls, you're eventually going to drop a lot of them. But when it comes to you You've got to make yourself a priority, because without you, there's nothing else. So you are the common denominator in everything. You want to perform well at work, you got to take care of you. You want to be a great wife or partner, you've got to take care of you. You want to be an amazing parent, you've got to take care of you first.
And I think often what happens is, like you said, the obligation piece, and it's that if I don't look after everyone, then I'm a bad person.
Mm,
Is that something you see?
it's something that I've experienced in the past.
Tell us more.
Sorry?
Tell us more.
Tell you more. Um, well, as women, we can put pressure on ourselves. And something that I did was the fact that I felt like I always had to be over compensating, if you like. I mean, let's just, put our cards on the table here. I know where I've been, so I totally get it. And so for me, many years ago, and this does tie into the whole thing about health, wellness, and putting yourself first, and then obviously like the whole dynamic around what your lifestyle looks like, what your family dynamic looks like as well. So for me, I was diagnosed very young. I was 19 when I was diagnosed with chronic illness, specifically Crohn's disease. So it's a digestive disorder, right? And so food became a huge problem for me. So I had quite a volatile relationship with food, and so we know that food and emotions have a very close link, don't we?
Yep. Hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so with that, I felt, well, somehow I started to identify with being, someone with Crohn's disease, as opposed to Gia, this amazing, high-performing woman, right? And and I used to actually be a former sportswoman, like a junior. So I could have gone into the Olympics if I carried on, but this thing, this illness got in the way. Gosh, let me tell you, I thought it was such an inconvenience. That's how I viewed it. It's like, listen, I'm doing great. I'm performing. I've got a really promising career ahead of me, and now I've got this freaking disease. What do I do? Right. So for the most part, I was struggling with that. And this is important because it was like a case of struggling with two identities. And this is quite common. It's something that I've seen in the ladies that I work with as well. It's like, well, I'm this brilliant person, this brilliant professional, but at home in my life, I feel almost powerless. It's like I don't have control over that. So for me, people pleasing came into it. It's like, because, and I'll be honest here, like when you have a chronic illness and it affects your life, for me, it actually affected my health, my well-being, even the way I perceived myself, like my appearance. Right. And so when that happens, you start to doubt yourself, then you start to doubt your abilities.
Yeah.
And when you're doubting your abilities, you start to overcompensate. You don't want to believe that somehow that you've got a flaw. Listen, when you're when you're a high achiever, and I've noticed this with some of my ladies, there have been elements of perfectionism that have come in, because they're holding on to this deeper story that somehow they're not good enough as they are.
Yep.
Right. And so this is where the overcompensation comes from. I got to do well at work. I've got to be the best spouse ever. I've got to do this. I've got to be the best child, the this, the that, the whatever. And quite honestly, that is really unhealthy, because it just continues to drive your the levels of stress, and we all know what stress does to your body. It's horrible.
Yeah, if you let it run rampant, for sure.
Yeah, especially chronic stress, it affects the way you think, literally, like you can't focus for long periods of time when you are stressed out.
Mm, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah. All sorts of things. So, do you want to talk a little bit about the effects of stress on the body? Like,
Yeah, shoot. Oh, listen, just
no,
go
no,
in.
I'm asking you to,
Yeah, yeah, go
as
ahead.
the expert.
Listen,
You
you're
go
in
for it.
flow, so I'm good to go. Let's go. Yeah, talk about it. Because I think I think we forget in this society how stressed we are.
We don't realize it a lot of the time.
We're just being hyper stimulated all the time.
Yeah, we don't realize it. Let me just share with you actually. I didn't like the thing is like with me, I love being on the go. Like I am one of these people, one of the 2 to 3% really thrive on pressure because it gets me going. I get stuff done, and I feel great. But at what point do you know when you're actually stressed rather than running on a high? This is a really good question. And one thing that I noticed for myself, and it's really important, this is one thing I would say to the ladies and anyone else listening out there, is that you've really got to be aware of what your stresses are, what triggers you, what are your telltale signs that, oh, well, I'm stressed out now. You know, are you clenching your jaw, for
Mhm.
instance? You're grinding your teeth without even realizing it. That's one way. But one thing that I've noticed, and actually it's through diet that I noticed it. I did it a couple of days ago,
Okay,
right? I don't usually drink coffee. So for me, when I'm reaching for coffee, I know I'm stressed,
got it.
right? So just be mindful. I mean, like you can correct me on this, Greg, but from as far as I understand it, um, things like donuts, very sugary foods, highly fatty foods, higher amounts of caffeine are all indicators, like when you're naturally reaching for them, are all indicators that your body is stressed and it's saying, give me this food, I need energy quick.
Yeah, pretty often what happens, and this is something I've seen a lot, is when there's an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So people will say that stress has made them eat.
Mm,
The stress hasn't actually made them eat. It's the thought of dealing with the stress
mm.
has now created a way to deal with not having to deal with the stress. So I'll go and eat something fatty, sugary, whatever.
Instead,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. I love that distinction. Yeah, I love that distinction. But yeah, I caught myself doing it a couple of days ago. I thought, oh, Gia, you're stressed. You need to
Mm.
calm down.
Yeah, mate, and this is why I'll get people to do food diaries, right? Because
Mm,
you'll
so
see patterns.
powerful.
You'll see patterns.
Yeah,
And you probably had to do this for your Crohn's as well.
I
Like,
did. It
yeah.
was a rigorous process for me.
Mm. And how did you manage to well, you don't really overcome Crohn's fully, but how have you managed to deal with it and live with it and live? Because I think a
Yeah.
lot of ladies will have some form of chronic illness and they'll be like, like you said, they identify as I'm diabetic, identify
Mm,
IBS rather than the person who they actually are.
right.
So
Yes.
how do you deal with that in your head?
Well, for me, because I was healthy before all of that kicked off, I had a healthy point of reference to go back to. And
Mhm.
actually, having that healthy point of reference, and if any of you ladies like feel like, yeah, I used to be, that I used to be, the sort of sports representative at my college or what have you, and you're listening to this, and that was your past identity, what I did, and what I encourage you to do, if it feels right for you to do that, and if you want to go that way, is to actually tap back into that part of your personality and the traits that you picked up back then,
Mm.
right? And bring them forward to now. Because let me tell you, Greg, I'm not going to be going for the Olympics anytime soon because I don't want to do that. Even if I've met and fit all the criteria, that's not what I want to do right now.
Mhm.
But the fact that once upon a time, I was a junior athlete and swimmer, I cultivated certain habits, certain ways of eating, and being in love with certain types of food, which helped me to have that energy and to have a particular physique. I'm still bringing all of that into my life now, even though I'm not running on the track or swimming in a pool like that anymore.
I guess there's a lot of ladies though who might think, well, it's been a while since I've had the identity, so
Yeah,
I don't know how to get it back.
yeah, that's very true. And it was a while ago that I had that identity. And bearing in mind, that was when I was like 15, 16, and I'm now like 45. So 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I say this? If do you have pictures of yourself from back then?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we are stimulated through old pictures, we get our memory back about like, those were the times when I was fit, when I was healthy, when I did this and I had this lifestyle, and it felt great.
Yep.
And we hold on to that feeling. Because let me tell you, Greg, all those years, like 20 odd years of having had really nasty Crohn's disease, and the doctors were throwing like really hardcore toxic medication at me, hoping it will go away and settle down. Shall I tell you what put it into remission?
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Diet, lifestyle.
Every damn time.
I'm telling you, I remember this time I walked into the consultant's office and they were shocked to see how well I was, because there's the doctor reading my medical file and thinking, oh gosh, she looks like a really, really severe case. And so they've got this picture in their mind about what they're going to see when she comes through the door. And there's me saying, hi doctor, how are you?
Fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hi, how are you? And I'm out there shaking their hands or whatever, and they're like gobsmacked. I remember one doctor actually said to me, like, I've just been reading your file and you look fantastic. He wasn't expecting that. He was very open and said, well, I thought you'd be a lot sicker than you are. What is your secret? He said to me.
Share your secret.
And so here's the secrets, ladies, right? I cleaned up my diet. I came off the medications. Don't do that without, proper advice, guidance, please, ladies. Fortunately for me, I've always been a nerd and I was studying to go into medicine. So I had a little bit of a clue about what I was doing on my own. So, so I wouldn't sort of advise that. But, so for me, I cleaned up my diet with expert advice, with nutritionists, with dietitians, and then with an actual nutrition coach I have right now. Right. So it's been a process for me. So that was one thing I did. The other thing actually was getting rid of toxic people.
Woo. Yep.
Toxic relationships. Right. Yep. So these are friends who are no good for you. Bit harder with colleagues if you have to share a workspace, but that's a whole other conversation.
You can leave that job if that job is so toxic.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, if it's one or two people, it's a different story. But like if it's like the whole department, whatever, and you're in the trenches of it, then yeah, why stay?
Yeah, you go. Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. Like just essentially like cleaning up your life. But definitely, diet was a huge one for me, huge. And having the right people around you to support that journey is crucial. I wanted to clean up my diet for two things. One, because I hated being 30 pounds overweight. Because I packed on a difference of 30 pounds from when I used to be athletic to the point of where I'm on oral steroids to come and deal with the aggressive Crohn's disease. So I put on all this weight, right? And it's hard to shift when you are taking 40 milligrams of prednisolone like every day and stepping it down over a course of 6 months. Now, steroids can make you very, very hungry.
Yep.
It's one of the side effects.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a moon face, and like you start swelling up, and like it wasn't attractive for me. When I looked in the mirror, I hated how I looked,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I thought, well, all the time I'm on these tablets, I'm not going to get any better. I'm not going to look any different, you know?
Yep.
At that point, I was so, what's the word now? Downhearted, but like I felt like in despair. I thought, well, if these tablets are making me put on this weight, then what can I do about it? I can't
Mm.
come off them yet. It's not time to come off them. What can I do?
Mm.
And so there was this frustration that really fueled my journey to getting my health right. I hated being on steroids. I didn't feel like me, right? And it certainly affected my work, and it
Mm.
affected my relationship, or the quality of my relationship as well. I mean, at the time, bearing in mind, right? So at that time, I was with someone who wasn't supportive with my health and wellness journey,
Right, got it.
which doesn't help.
Mm.
It's important to have people on your side when you are going through a transformation with your health and well-being, right?
Yep.
Have you found that as well with your clients?
Yeah, well, it's one of the first things I ask people is like, who needs to know that we're doing this?
Mm,
And I've been known to have partners on the phone and be like, right, let's talk about it. Like, how are you going to support her in this journey?
yeah,
What's going to change about what they're doing? This is the partner because
yes.
if that person, that woman tries to do it on her own, it's not going to happen.
Mm. I love the fact that you are bringing the partner into the process as well. So important.
Mm.
So important.
But it's always interesting when because we deal with people who have income and money to spend and invest
Hmm.
in themselves.
Hmm.
And I'm going to bring this up. This is an interesting point. And
Hmm.
it's often I need to speak to my husband
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That objection.
before I do it. And I understand where it comes from. And there's going to be a minority of ladies who really do need to speak like that's just the way that things work, which is cool.
Sure. Yeah, because of their relationship dynamic, which is
Yeah,
understandable, right?
understandable. Totally get it. But I think often it's a nice, easy way to have not had a conversation with your other half about the change that you want to go through and that you need support because you then end up not having the conversation and you bury it for another 2 years until it gets to a problem again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
No, I totally agree. And just by including your spouse in the process can bring you closer together.
Yep, because you're on the same page.
Exactly. You're working as a team now.
Mm.
So important.
Definitely, definitely.
Oh, Greg, if I met you 20 years ago,
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, well, actually, yeah, maybe not. I'm saying maybe not like that because actually that person wasn't the right person for me anyway. But if it was the right person, then that would have been a great situation to be in, like with that supportive process.
Yeah.
But what I'd love to share with you, though, that as we're talking about partners being part of the supportive process and something else, do you do you ever get questions around the perception of diet and what the spouse might think that might be? Like, oh gosh, this diet's so boring. Oh gosh, we've all got to eat the same thing.
Oh Lord. The word diet causes people to go into anaphylactic shock. It's like,
Yeah.
um, and I just look at people and say, look, whatever the situation, everyone in the world at this moment in time has a diet.
Mm,
You're like, no, 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 I'm not on a diet. Well, you are. Just
yes.
what it's the word diet's been hijacked by marketing for companies to sell weight loss products.
Yeah.
Everyone has a diet. Like your cat has a diet of cat food. Your dog
Yeah.
has a diet of dog food. A snake has a diet of frogs and mice. I don't know. But everyone has a diet.
Yeah. Of course.
It's just what you eat every day. That's it.
Exactly. It is what you eat every day. Absolutely.
And I
And
think,
usually out of what we habitually eat every day. And this is the part where things need to change. And it had to change for me as well. I was saying earlier on about feeling helpless when I was looking in the mirror and thinking, oh God, I don't like this steroid body. How am I going to get back to athletic Gia again? Right.
Mm.
And, I've been on and off. I had been at that point on and off for 10 years with steroids because of the flare ups that I was having. So, okay, let's get to the root cause of this. What's causing the flare ups? So, stress was obviously a very big one that came along. And then the stressors around the stress. One of them happened to be the person I was with at the time.
Mhm.
So, we go deeper, 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 don't we? So, to get to what the real problems were. But moving forward, and like when I had to get on steroids the next time around, because first of all, like I would eat anything on an indiscriminate basis. Like, it's food. I'm hungry. I want it now. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I want this food. I'm going to eat it. I don't care if it's unhealthy.
Mhm.
Feed me. Right? Be like Tui from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so and so that's how it was until I made a different decision,
Mhm.
until I made different choices. And I remember going to my doctor really stressed about this and said, Doc, this is how I talk to my doctors. I said, Doc, look, what do I do about this weight gain? And weirdly, he said something really simple. It was like, okay, when you've got the munchies, munch on apples, munch on nuts, walnuts, whatever. He said, but if you'll change what you're eating, like you'll still, if you really feel like you can't help it with the steroids making you really hungry, just be more discriminate about what you're eating. And that completely changed the game for me.
That's awesome. I think the problem with the world at the minute is that people want to have the shape that they want, but not have to eat the food that they know they have to eat.
I've
And
been there too. I get it.
we've all been there, and I think until people understand that, yeah, you don't have to give up everything,
No.
but 80 to 90% of your diet needs to be good single ingredient foods. Like we can't escape it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you have to like restriction becomes a bad word for people, but
Mm.
you have to restrict something, right? You can't stay up and watch Netflix all night. You have
No.
to restrict it, or you're going to be very tired.
Right. Well, honestly, I'm a bigger fan of the word in moderation.
Mm. See, moderation is a difficult word too.
Why is that? Talk to us.
Right, tell me about your moderation. I'll tell you about my moderation. But that's the problem. People hear the word moderation,
Yeah.
and the moderation that they think they have is probably what's got them in trouble in the first place.
Yes, different perceptions of
Yeah.
moderation. Yeah, I get it. But restriction just feels so like it's holding you back.
But then there's always times you have to restrict stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So we apply it to
Yeah.
just to food. We don't apply it to the fact that we can't sit on our phones for hours and hours and hours because we're never getting.
No.
So you have to restrict it. It's so
No, I understand. It's like having again, like we're saying about having a demarcation line, like we said
yeah,
earlier on, having a hard stop. Boundaries again. Here we go.
it all comes back down to these boundaries for
It
the food
does.
you want.
Can't get away from them.
No. So before we
Yeah.
leave the people that listen to this podcast with four of your gems of advice that they can go and implement now.
Implement right now.
Or, easily. They can get started. And if they get stuck, then they contact you.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's about being honest about checking where you are at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually have any goals for the future, like in terms of your health and well-being and where you want to be and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I tend to leave people with guiding questions rather than do this, do that. I'm not a very prescriptive kind of person like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know very much like yourself, like you will deal with an individual according to their personal needs too,
Yeah, of
as
course.
opposed to being like very tick boxy, checklisty. We don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But absolutely. But so I would like to leave you some with defining questions, like where are you right now in your health and well-being journey?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where would you like to be? You know, and who is supporting you? You mentioned this earlier on. Who can you ask to support you in, let's say, like with your healthier eating? So another thing is also be mindful of where those habits might be kicking in more. So let's say, for instance, you're eating healthy at home, but you aren't eating healthily outside or at work. Who's around you? Okay. So take a look at your circle of friends or colleagues or what have you. Are they supporting your health goals outside of the home as well?
Yes. So there's always Rita, the feeder from HR, who's always bringing cakes around the office. Always, every time, everywhere you go, there's always a feeder.
Yeah, that's very true. And then you say, that's lovely, but no, thank you.
And it's okay to say no.
It's absolutely okay to say no. Again, look at these boundaries coming in.
What about these boundaries?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, is that enough? I mean, I've got lots, but
I know you got lots, so that's why we got to do a part two. So where can people find you, and where can they hunt you down and understand more about what you do? Where's the links?
where the links are. Can I share them with you afterwards?
Yeah, you can do so.
Absolutely. But I am on LinkedIn as Coach Gia Lili.
Mhm.
I'm also on Facebook as Coach Gia Lili. So there's all sorts.
Awesome.
And I will be in other places too going forward. Oh, did I tell you I'm a 2 times author as well?
You mentioned the book. I was going to say you haven't told people, so tell us the name of your books.
Ah, yes, it's called Home Working Habits. And that's going to be available very soon through Bookboom, which is a European publishing company. So I will certainly leave the link with you all there. And it's all about how to manage your working environment at home without being distracted. So
Awesome.
being a high performer at home, essentially.
High performer at home. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I should have called it that, you know.
There you go. High performance work at home. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can be book two. That can be the next book.
It certainly can.
Awesome. So,
Oh, great.
ladies,
Mhm.
been awesome. If you want to get your high performance game on, then Gia is the person to speak to. I'm going to leave her links in the show notes, but drop her a follow, leave a review on iTunes, and I'm looking forward to having Gia on a part two.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. I've really, really enjoyed our time together. And thank you all for listening.
All right, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.